Hello there! Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week, in honor of our 50th episode, we are going to celebrate the maestro himself, yes, John Williams. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some awesome Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations, ladies and gentlemen. Did you enjoy that music that just preceded this portion of the show, if you will? I hope so, because that is the big surprise I've been teasing over the last couple of weeks here. We now have intro, outro music specifically designed for Force Ghost Conversations, and it plays in line with the theme for this week's episode, with talking about John Williams and celebrating him, a man who just turned 90 this past year and is still producing wonderful music for the universe that we are thrilled to be the recipients of, if you ask me. And it's our 50th episode. This is such a momentous occasion, celebrations around all around for everybody involved. It's just fantastic, and I'm so thrilled to be part of all this. And thank you at home for listening. I wouldn't be able to do this without your support, without your encouragement, without the great conversations that we've had over the last couple of months. We're almost approaching our 1-year anniversary for Force Ghost Conversations. That'll be in November. But hitting 50 is a pretty big milestone that I'm really excited to just hit another 50 more, hit 100 after that, 100 plus after that, right? 200 and beyond. It's been a thrill to talk Star Wars and all things Lucasfilm related with each and every one of you weekly since we started. And I'm really thrilled that you've all become part of this great community that we've got here. And it's just been a lot of fun getting to meet some of you at Celebration and interacting with you on our social channels. Please continue to do so. Tell your friends about us. We love bringing more people into the campfire. I am so excited to bring new guests on to Force Ghost Conversations in future episodes as we get into Andor season, Willow season, Bad Batch season. It's all coming up, and it's going to be a great ride. So thank you all really for being a part of this wonderful celebration. And I hope you enjoyed the intro music. It was something that I've been sitting on for a little bit here. So for those of you keeping track at home, the three kind of like big teases that we've done over the last couple of weeks here to really, I think, make Force Ghost Conversations the best possible podcast that it can be at this moment in time is we have a new logo and picture podcast artwork for when we do Willow content, which is something I'm excited about. I can also tease that we'll be doing something similar for Indiana Jones too, when we get into those discussions later on in 2023 in anticipation of Indiana Jones 5. The one after that is we started our TeePublic store, which I alluded to in the preamble. So if you want to get a Force Ghost Conversations t-shirt, baseball shirt, ball cap, I think they do ball caps. Don't quote me on that one. I think they do that. A onesie for your baby. I've seen one. It's fantastic. Be sure to check out our store. The link will be in our show notes here on this podcast, so you can just copy and paste that into your browser and head off there and find whatever you like. It's all there. And finally, that last one that we just arrived at today with this episode is we have theme music. We got intro music. We got outro music. We have transition music that's all in the same vein as our intro. And I'm so proud of it. Frankly, the person that put it together did such amazing work. and I'm blown away by it. I hope you all enjoy it too. It's really special, and now we're up and running. That's basically all that I can possibly think of to really add to the show in other ways possible. And maybe we'll do a Patreon at some point in a year or so once we really get our footing in all this. But as far as I'm concerned, we're pretty much set when it comes to all the things that make a podcast. So we are fully armed and operational, if you will. Anywho, let's get to the main crux of our episode. And frankly, I think it makes sense, right? With having intro, outro, transition music now being such a big part of the celebration of this 50th episode, there's also, what makes better sense than to talk about the music of it all, the music of Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. And who's behind that for the most part? 95% of the way, aside from Kevin Kiner, and the wonderful work that Michael Giacchino and John Powell, Natalie Holt, and Ludwig Göransson have done for the ancillary projects to Star Wars outside of the main Skywalker saga. John Williams this past February, celebrated turning the age of 90. That's pretty big. It's a pretty big accomplishment. He was John Williams, Johnny Williams, John Towner Williams, full name if you will, was born on February 8th, 1932 in New York City. So just up the road from us on Highway 95. And the man is still literally producing music and creating to this day. He will be retiring after Indiana Jones 5. That will be the last kind of theatrical film music, I believe, that he is slated to do. And we just got to hear the first track from that in his recent concert over Labor Day weekend at the Hollywood Bowl, where he played Helena's theme, one of the main characters in the upcoming film, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who you may recall from Solo: A Star Wars Story, as she is the voice and kind of did the motion capture for the droid L337, who is a personal favorite of mine and a favorite in this household. I'm thrilled to be able to celebrate the wonderful goodness that John Williams has brought, because he is honestly the special sauce in so many films that are quintessential to my life. And I assume probably the lives of yourselves too. The man has 52 Academy Award nominations alone. He's won 25 Grammys. Honestly, if you think of music from the film industry, you're probably going to touch upon John Williams at some point. And those people that you may think of that are not John Williams were definitely influenced by him at some point in their careers. Let's run through some of the projects that John Williams has been a part of, right? He's been friends with the greats of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, among many others. And obviously, when you work with those director of calibers, you get to have your name attached to many high-profile projects. These include the Star Wars saga, all 9 Skywalker saga films, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the original Superman film, Superman the Motion Picture from 1978, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Home Alone, every single Indiana Jones films, definitely Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Harry Potter, especially the first 3. The list goes on and on and on. This man has definitely had his due in the film industry, and I will celebrate everything John Williams for all of time. Right, this man has brought wonderful gift of music into the world, and if you ever get the chance to hear, and I know it's difficult to see John in concert nowadays. You basically have to be in Los Angeles at the Hollywood Bowl when he does it like once a year, basically, if he's going to continue doing that after he quote unquote retires. And I was very fortunate to be in the room at Star Wars Celebration when he debuted the Obi-Wan Kenobi theme. Play the Raiders March from Indiana Jones, most notably Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then concluded with the Imperial March. I said to my wife, we paid these tickets to go see Star Wars Celebration, and we just kind of won the lottery to be in this room for the Lucasfilm Showcase panel. And frankly, if you were to pay tickets to go see John Williams, like, this is like what we paid to see the convention, the full 4 days of the convention, is what we would have paid probably to see him in concert. So when you think about it, this one experience covered the cost of the entire weekend, if you will, plus everything else out of that after that was an additive bonus. So very fortunate to have been a part of that. That's incredible. So I implore you, for your local pop cinema or something like that, whatever local orchestra that you've got, maybe even your high school close by is going to do some type of pops music season, go see it. You will not regret it. It's incredible to be there in the room where it happens, if you will, to quote Hamilton, and to feel the energy of these tracks that literally bounce off of the instruments. I will say I've also been very, very fortunate to have attended so I am based here in Washington, D.C., in the greater D.C. area, that I am close to the Kennedy Center, which is where the National Symphony Orchestra plays. And I have seen in concert live orchestra renditions of, where they play along to the movie, basically, for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens. Really, really fortunate to have done that. Plus, I've also had the chance to see Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix in plus the Goblet of Fire as well, in the same kind of setting. And when there's a lot of John Williams DNA in those films too, because he did the first three. Now, he didn't directly do those scores for those films, but he certainly created the foundation for what is Harry Potter music after that. So go check it out. Go make sure I highly recommend it. Find your local orchestra and see what their schedule is for the upcoming season. Get yourself some tickets. You will not regret it. That's my big plug for this episode here. So what I've done to celebrate the music of John Williams here is I've done what I would call a top 5. I've done 2 top 5s. All right. I've done a top 5. And of course, this is right now. This could change on a moment's notice. This is literally what I'm thinking of right here and now at the time of this recording. So don't take these too much out of context or anything like that. This is what I'm thinking right now, but don't set me in stone for these being my favorite tracks of all time when it comes to John Williams. These are my favorite right now, but next week I could have a different answer. So, I'm blessed that we have so much John Williams content out there that he's continuing to produce, frankly. And hopefully some new stuff comes in that changes us out, or I watch a film again and there's something else comes to my mind that maybe fluctuates the order a bit. So, but granted, at this point in time, I just wanted to get these out on paper, if you will. So I did 5 non-Star Wars tracks that I wanted to highlight, and then 5 Star Wars tracks. All right, you all with me? Excellent. I want to start with the non-Star Wars stuff. Let's conclude, obviously, with the Star Wars stuff. We are a Star Wars podcast first and foremost, but John's catalog of film score does not just limit himself alone to Star Wars. Any composer out there would be thrilled to just have one of these films on their resume, but John Williams has all of these. It's incredible. What I want to start with is my number 5 for the non-Star Wars track, which is the song called One Barrel Chase, which is from the Jaws soundtrack. Jaws, 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg. In fact, now that I look at this, all 5 of my non-Star Wars tracks are Steven Spielberg directed films, which, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense, everybody. So One Barrel Chase. It is literally the scene where the Orca, the ship that they're on, the three men, right? Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss, Quint, Hooper, Chief Brody, when they're out on the Orca hunting down the shark, Bruce, if you will, after the July 4th, I guess you want to call it, maybe murder on the beach, when they had the beaches open during the events of Jaws, and they decide they're going to go kill the shark now. And this is the first time where they're out there and they come into contact with the shark. They get a barrel on it, and this whole like very quick action sequence that is really, really well done, well paced. It's one of my favorite sequences of the entire film, if you ask me. Just the way it's all done from start to finish, it's excellent. This sound that it's like this event, and frankly, John Williams's additive bonus to this scene is this song, which is this kind of like upbeat driver, if you will. That's how I'm going to describe it, as an upbeat driver that gives this scene gravitas, it gives it pace, it gives it momentum. It reminds me very similar of the song Into the Trap from Return of the Jedi, which if you play them side by side, I think you'll see what I'm talking about there. They have very similar connotations to themselves. So that's number 5, One Barrel Chase. I also, very fortunate this past weekend, got to see Jaws in 3D at my local Regal Cinema. And it was my first experience seeing, honestly, my favorite film. It may be my favorite film of all time. It's up there on the big screen for the first time in my life. Now, I watch Jaws like twice a year, and I have been doing that since I was like 10. It's very, very important to me. So I love that I got to see that. I got to hear it in the sound system. John Williams score, even 47 years, 48 years since the film came out, it pounds through those speakers. Let's just say that, right? It is epic. Number 4 on my non-Star Wars list, I think you will all think of this song when you think of the name Indiana Jones. This is the Raiders March, specifically from the film Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is the Indiana Jones theme song, if you will, right? Dun, 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 dun. Don't want to hum too much of it, because if you, I don't want to get flagged for copyright. Even though my voice probably sounds nothing like what a trumpet sounds like coming off of the speaker system, but I do my best. The Raiders March is quintessential with what the vibe is for the Indiana Jones series. And you may ask, what is that, Anthony? Well, Indiana Jones is based off of these 1930s B-movie cinema feature serials that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg grew up on, where they watched these Saturday films on TV or in the cinema that were quick, action-packed. There was something new, a cliffhanger in every scene, basically, and that is the bread and butter of Indiana Jones. So what does it need? He needs this adventurous theme. It is epic in nature, if you will, right? Follow me on that one. It is grand in scale. You know you're going on a fun adventure with this treasure hunter, if you will. That's probably kindly putting what Indiana Jones does into a box there. But the theme really does capture all of those words into music form. So that's my number 4 there. Raiders March from Raiders of the Lost Ark. 3rd on my non-Star Wars top John Williams tracks is none other than the theme from Schindler's List. And this is a haunting, haunting song that, for its beauty, is also a terrifying, somber remembrance and memorial to all those victims of the Holocaust. This is, honestly, it's probably one of the most beautiful tracks of film and music ever written. Film score, I should say, film score or music for a film that has ever been written. it's hard to put into words how impactful that this song is. It binds together this horrific moment that Spielberg puts together on screen so eloquently with all the passion that he could possibly put into it. It is really well done, and that haunting violin, it just adds a gravitas, a weight to this song, and throughout the rest of the film, frankly, too, that is there to the end. So when you hear that song from the first time all the way up to the end credits, it is powerful. It brings a tear to my eye all the time. It is exactly the right tone and musical piece for this film. Number 2 on my non-Star Wars list of John Williams tracks is none other than Wild Signals. Now, this is from the Close Encounters of the Third Kind soundtrack. And in this movie, this is probably one of the few instances in cinema history that I can recall where music is central to the plot of the film. So if you have not seen Close Encounters, in this sequence where the song is played, music is used as a communicator, if you will, with this alien species that comes down every so often, that drops off people they've abducted, if you will, and then takes new people on to learn about American culture or whatever. You learn about the Earth and what have you will. You know, it's we don't really know entirely what they do, but that's kind of where the film leads off, right? And this song is this back and forth between the people on the ground at basically at Devil's Tower, I believe in Colorado, and this mothership. The on the ground, it's where these humans are communicating back and forth. They're playing this like high pitched synth piano, if you will, and the mothership is a low baritone bass tenor-esque sound, very deep, very heavy, versus this light tone on the other side. And the how they interact with each other and fight against each other in this conversation is really epic, and it is really the central climax of the film, if you will. This finally, we have this encounter with this alien species. Incredible work. This film is epic. It's grand in scale. It came out in the same year as Star Wars did, so the fact that John Williams was able to put out two, if not two, of the greatest score for films in 1 year. Again, like I said, any person would be thrilled just to have Jaws on their resume, or E.T., or Jurassic Park even. And honestly, I'm looking at this now, and my top 5 list doesn't even include Jurassic Park, which is incredible. To even not include one of the greatest film scores of all time, it's not even on here. So yeah, number 2, Wild Signals from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. For the first one of top John Williams songs that are non-Star Wars is none other than Flying from the film E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Flying, how could I describe this, is literally the song that I think of when I think of film score. When I think of adding sweeping overtures to a piece of motion picture, that is it. Of course, is this the song that is played in the classic Amblin symbol, which is the Elliot and E.T. in the bike flying over the moon, or flying next to the moon, depending on what you call it. That's like they're flying. It's how they get from the woods to the spot where they're able to set up the communicator to ET's home planet, if you will, the spaceship that dropped him off, that left him behind. This is the magic of cinema right here, and this is really the magic of John Williams at full display here. This scene captures everything from boyhood or childlike wonder to adventure, to mysticism, to belief in something grander than yourself. All these ideas are at play in this music itself. And at the end of the day, it puts a big smile on my face anytime I hear it. It makes me feel like I can accomplish anything, which is, I think, at the end of the day, really something that ET is one of the themes of ET the Extraterrestrial. I did get to see it last a couple weeks ago in IMAX, in the IMAX format, which was just spectacular. I highly recommend getting a chance, if you get the chance, to see ET in the cinema, maybe even possible with a live orchestra playing along to it. It is incredible. So be sure to check out ET wherever you can. ET, that's a plug for ET. Maybe we should do an ET podcast one of these days, because there are a lot of people that worked on ET from ILM and Light and Magic, as we learned from that documentary. And there's a lot of connections between ET and Star Wars. So maybe that's something we could do one of these upcoming days. But we got a lot coming up with the Andor and Willow and Bad Batch. We're not spoiled for lack of content here, let me tell you that. So let's get on to the top 5 Star Wars list. So yeah, number 1, Flying from ET. Let's get over to the Star Wars top 5 list now. And of course, I will preface this with the fact that I am a child of the prequels. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 are my bread and butter Star Wars. They're my comfort Star Wars. They're oftentimes what I think of when I think of Star Wars. So just keep that in mind as I go through this list here, because your top 5 may not be exactly the same as my top 5. And with number 5, I'm going with Anakin's Dark Deeds from the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack. Now you're thinking, what is that, Anthony? And that song is really this is an incredible song. This is really it's like a song that plays usually during Order 66 sequences. It's a song that plays, I believe, when Anakin, is a song that plays when Obi-Wan and Padme have their discussion about who the father is. It's a song that plays when Anakin is looking at the sun that's kind of poking its way through at Mustafar after he's taken out the separatist leaders, with the tear rolling down his cheek, where he knows it's that fight in him that to believe what he's doing is for the right reasons. So there's just a lot of complexity to the song overall. I fully believe in that Revenge of the Sith is really, in many ways, John Williams' magnum opus to Star Wars, because he didn't think at the time that he'd probably get to do anymore. So everything that you could possibly think of is John Williams at his best, and I would argue that the Episode 3 soundtrack is the best overall Star Wars film score. It includes everything. It's a greatest hits, if you will. It includes Duel of Fates, it includes Battle of the Heroes, it includes Across the Stars, it includes tracks from the original trilogy in there, because a little bit of Luke and Leia. It's got the Twin Suns. And if you listen to the rest of a little bit of the Imperial March, if you bear with me there. If you listen to you go through the full credits of the film too, you got, I believe, some of the throne room stuff, Princess Leia's theme. It's all there. It's great. Anakin's Dark Deeds, number 5. I don't think I need to elaborate on that any further. Number 4 on my Star Wars list is none other than Duel of the Fates. Now, at Celebration, I was very fortunate again to be in the room for the Lucasfilm Showcase panel, where it literally started with that choral sequence from the song Duel of the Fates. And I believe that Duel of the Fates also had a few weeks on the MTV circulation in 1999 when it first came out, because this song is really epic. I mean, this is one that you want to play anytime you have a fake lightsaber battle with your friends at home, because it reminds you of that sequence where Darth Maul literally pops out on Theed City in Naboo and then has that climactic fight with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of the film. Now, of course, Dave Filoni has spoken at length as to the canonical reason for why Duel of the Fates is so important, and why this track is important, why this duel between Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi is structurally important to everything that happens in the remainder of the Star Wars Skywalker saga. But overall, this track is just rocks. It's metal. Come on, let's not mince words here. It is rocking. It is It is true John Williams at his best, and that is a lot of what emphasizes what the Phantom Menace is about, right? When he comes back to Star Wars after all these years off from it, and is able to put these grand themes back into play again. And Duel of Fates just really knocks it home. I think that about covers it all for Duel of Fates. It is epic. So number 3 on my list is, again, going back to the prequel era, is none other than from Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Across the Stars, aka the love theme from Episode 2, where Anakin is basically played anytime Anakin and Padme are close to each other, where they kiss. It's played when they are about to go out into the Petronaki arena, where they share their kiss and basically tell each other that they love each other and they want to be together in this last moments, and this, they want to live this life together if they make it through. It's played when they get married at the end, just before the end credits come up, and it's literally the only thing that plays in the end credits. But it is epic. I will tell you, this song is incredible. And what it really stuck home with me, how awesome this song is when, if you played, I believe, I don't know if it was the first Battlefront or if it was Battlefront 2, where they had like the cut. I believe it was Battlefront 2. So the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2005, where they had these like cut sequences and played the Star Wars music in the loading screen. And every now and then, like, one of the tracks that would play on the loop in there was the Across the Stars theme. So when you load up the game and you're ready to go, and then the sound just booms through the speakers, that is Across the Stars. Come on, what more could you want? What more could you want, ladies and gentlemen? It is just fantastic. And that's what it is. It's a great love theme. It's epic. It's up there with I think it surpasses personally Han and Leia's theme. Great stuff. Great stuff. Number 2 on the list, I think we have to go to the original trilogy here. And of course, what else are we going to do when we do that, other than the main Star Wars theme? The bam, you know what I'm talking about. You got the Star Wars text going across the screen. You got the main crawl coming up. It's going to tell you Episode 4, A New Hope, or it's used for every other subsequent Star Wars Skywalker saga film. It is the main title. It is Star Wars. A lot of people are going to, when you think of Star Wars, this is the song that's going to pop up for the most part. It sets the groundwork for everything. It is perfect to have in the lexicon for what is Star Wars. But I choose the main title from A New Hope for other reasons other than that, or I should say in addition to that, right? I love it because it goes right into the dun 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 part of the blockade runner chase, right, between the Star Destroyer and the Tanta V4. That is just equally as epic. That continues from that sequence from what we know in the waning events of Rogue One, where Darth Vader is chasing down Princess Leia's ship for the stolen Death Star plans. I love that sequence. It really sets the tone and stage for what you're going to experience in Star Wars as this action B movie serial from the 30s, in the vein of these Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon serials that George Lucas grew up on. You're all there. I mean, that literally, the crawl is something that is from, I believe, Flash Gordon. So epic stuff. This is Star Wars at its best. It is quintessential Star Wars too, at its foundational level. That is the main title from A New Hope. Now, finally, for my number 1, the number 1 John Williams track from Star Wars, it is none other than Yoda's Theme. Yoda's Theme is a brilliant, epic piece of music, let alone to put in the box of just Star Wars music alone. Ken Knapsack from the Force Center podcast, in his book Why We Love Star Wars, writes a very, very eloquent and epic depiction of this song and what it means for the overall Star Wars saga, and why, this is the reason why we love Star Wars, as Yoda's Theme. He describes it as the sounds of enlightenment, which is something that I've picked up on ever since I first heard him coin that term. So all credit to Ken on that one. Yoda's Theme is the sounds of enlightenment. It is the idea that we can put ourselves and our thoughts and our focus on to bigger and better things is the idea that we can achieve things beyond what we thought possible if we just put our minds and our focus towards it. It's the fact that we're okay to fail, learn from our failures, learn from our mistakes, pass on what we've learned. This is all there in Yoda's theme. It's essential to Yoda as a person. John Williams is literally able to give this puppet, right? It is a puppet done by Frank Oz, so much life and character just through literally this music that is played. Honestly, I get a tear anytime I think about Yoda's theme, of just how much it means to seek greater good, seek enlightenment, seek knowledge, seek learning, seek becoming better. And this is all there in Yoda's theme, if you ask me. Is a transcending track that at the end of the day supersedes all of Star Wars and its musical lexicon, in my opinion. And it may be John Williams's single track magnum opus. So that's where I'm at with my top 5 Star Wars tracks, my top 5 non-Star Wars tracks. Again, those are from 5 to 1 on the non-Star Wars scale. It's One Barrel Chase from Jaws. Number 4 is the Raiders March from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 3 is the theme from Schindler's List. Number 2 is Wild Signals from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And number 1 will be Flying from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Now, on the Star Wars side again of things, number 5 was Anakin's Dark Deeds from the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack. Number 4 was Duel of Fates from the Phantom Menace. Number 3, Across the Stars from Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Number 2 was the main title from Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And number 1, none other than Yoda's theme from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. What are your favorite John Williams tracks? Do you have any specific memories of John Williams and how he has impacted your life? I would love to hear them all. Connect with us on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search Force Ghost Conversations, and we'll probably be there in some way, shape, or form. Let's continue the conversation, so be sure to check us out on all those social media channels. Again, check out our TeePublic store to get some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And tell your friends about us. Let's expand the Force Ghost Conversations campfire. Subscribe, rate, and review the show so we continue to hit every person that is interested in Star Wars and Lucasfilm and all things beyond on a regular basis, and share the coziness that is Force Ghost Conversations. Now, with that, everybody, we are done for this week's episode. Apologies again, because this is our Wednesday release this week, so there was no Cloud City Gossip. We'll try to cover any news that we can for the Sunday's episode, but I believe I will have to pre-record that one in advance too, so we'll just see where we're at with all that. And that will be it for this week's episode. So thank you all for coming on this great journey celebrating John Williams with us and also celebrating our 50th episode. I hope you enjoy the outro music that will follow this when I stop hitting record here. But I hope you enjoyed the intro, the segment pieces, and the fact that we're going to continue to have this music throughout the rest of Force Ghost Conversations' run here. So thank you all for being a part of our ride here for 50 episodes. Let's shoot for 50 more and beyond. So may the Force be with you, everybody. Take care.